15, what was the first job that you did and that you went into?
First job.
15's a young age to start.
Well, yeah, I was at college for a year, music college actually, and I left after a year at music college because it was crap.
Right.
It was just I just had a bad experience, you know what I mean? Well, it was actually a really good experience, but work-wise, it was just a complete failure, you know. So I think it was.
Did you know you wanted to go into game design? How did that come about then?
My brother was a programmer, basically. He himself had dropped out of university actually,
Right.
because he was doing chemistry or something, and he bought himself a Spectrum, and he just thought, this is great, Spectrums, you know. He was just a nerd, really. You know, and he bought himself just a Spectrum to play around on, and he ended up writing a game on it, and got a job doing that, and that was at a little software company in St Helens, hometowns.
What were they called?
Insight, I think they were called.
Right.
Inspired title, Insight.
Yeah.
Run
And
by
you just
two.
went in with him, did you?
Yeah, well, he was already working there, and he wanted me to do some sound sort of thing, and I had no idea, never really, you know, used the computer before sort of thing, so I just sort of sat there and he taught me a few basics of machine code, it was called then, which was, you know, you had basic and you had machine code. If you're a genius, you use machine code, you know what I mean, which is, all games are written in machine code, you know. Basic was for people who just wanted to print hello 20 times down the screen.
Right.
In boots, you know what I mean? That's what it was.
So did he have you working on, when you went in, what was the first thing you started working on?
Well, it was at home actually. He just gave it to me at home and just sort of tinker around with this, you know. So it was a little sound routine, sort of little program to make a sound, you know. That's all it was. And I think I worked out how to make it kind of phase, you know, instead of just a regular beep. Spectrum used to do sort of thing. I got it to phase in this funny way, sort of thing. So I just sort of made a little melody up, which was based on. What was it? Oh, it was that's really pretentious now. Stravinsky's Firebird Suite, because he was doing Star Firebirds, the game. So it was the music for that, and I just did a little tune, and they were really happy with it. It was nothing, you know. It was just knocked out sort of thing while I was still at school, you know.
And then from then you went on from different.
Well, I just tinkered a bit more with it. I think he had a few more games after that, you know. So I sort of tried to improve it and did a sort of better little program.
What kind of titles were you working on then, and what kind of thing were you doing? Was it a different thing for each one? Or?
Yeah, totally unknown ones. Apart from the Sentinel, which was like a big game at the time, which totally doesn't mean anything now. You know what I mean? But it was the Sentinel. Oh God, I don't remember what they call it actually now.
What was it like working on those? Like, what was it like working on those titles and seeing them in the shops and seeing like a kind of craze?
It was.
What was that like for you? Did you actually see anyone?
Yeah, it was kind of. Yeah, it was quite fun. Better than that was the reviews in magazines that we used to get. You know, because I remember reading a magazine which at the time was kind of, you know, made by God, wasn't it? Magazines. You know, you had no idea who made magazines or whatever when you're 15. You know, and you know, seeing a review there of my stuff, you know, and then marks out of 10 for the music sort of thing. Yeah, I thought it was great, you know. So,
and how did that lead on to other titles and stuff? Because you worked with like various like games on sort of New Zealand Story and stuff like that. And
yeah, that was when I moved to Software Creations, which is my brother moved to Software Creations. I just followed him basically, in total nepotism. But that was the first full-time job I had doing that sort of thing in Manchester, in Oxford Road.
And what age were you then at that stage?
I was still 17 then, so because I did a year at college after I left school, sort of thing, which was a waste of time. And just they offered me a job when I was, you know, going into my second year of college, sort of thing. So I thought, well, I can either take the job or I can go into college, you know.
So how do you go about composing like for actual like titles and stuff like that? Obviously, like each title's different. Do you like have a sufficient amount to play the game and stuff first, or you just given a general genre? You just have to start working with it.
Yeah. The games were usually being written while I was doing the music. Right. So, you know, it was a case of just do some music. You know, no one really cared, to be honest. You know, it was just knock some music up for us, you know. Just a bit.
What was your favourite title that you've worked on then?
Ghouls and Ghosts, probably.
Ghouls and Ghosts?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, that was just as a license from the arcade game sort of thing. So the arcade game already existed, and then it was Ghouls and Ghosts, the you know, various platforms like the Commodore 64 and NES was it at the time? I can't remember now.
Well, I remember playing it on the Amiga and stuff like that.
The Amiga, yes too.
But like I remember, like, so when it comes to like, for example, there's all the different scenes where there's like different things going on, like the sinking in the sand and all that kind of stuff. And did you not know what was going to be going on there? How do you write for different things? What's the process?
Well, that was the thing. I mean, back then it was totally. A lot of the things I wrote were completely unsuited to the game, you know what I mean? To be honest, just you listen to it afterwards, you think it'll all be, you know, lots of action happening. There'll be this sort of mellow, you know, piece going on in the background sort of thing. So it was complete. Just
is there anything you look back at it does particularly make you cringe that you just look back at it?
All of it, you mean?
No, a bit like there's something you think, well, you think, I would have done that differently now, or.
I think I would have paid more attention to what I was doing, basically, in that sort of sense, because I think the music didn't really suit a lot of the games, and I was just more interested in just making up, testing limits of the console or whatever it was, you know what I mean? Just to think, well, I can make this sound like a flute or something, so I'll do, you know what I mean? I was more into doing that than I was in matching it up to the game. So I think subsequently, although, I think a lot of people like the music, they don't necessarily think, certainly when it came to producers, picking me to do a job, they wouldn't really pick me, you know what I mean? Usually because it was kind of, well, that's the guy that just does music, it doesn't fit the game, you know what I mean? So I think it probably didn't do me any good,
Well, how quick was the kind of turnarounds on those kind of things? What was your kind of time scale for working on them? I mean, yet again, it's different for different titles, or
it was pretty laid back, to be honest. It wasn't that hectic, because a game would be in development for like months and months. It was 12 months sometimes. And you'd sometimes you just have 6 months to do it. So it was a case of just turn up for work and sit around, and it was quite good, really.
So what's the most titles you've worked on in the one place, like before moving on to a different company, or?
In the one company. Well, Software Creations is the only company I've ever worked for full time. Well, it's not actually. I worked for two, but the other one went bust after 18 months, and we didn't actually have any output.
What titles were you working on there?
At Software Creations, it was all. I think the most recent one was Rock and Roll Racing. I think that was the most recent one that I did at Software Creations. Before that, it was things like Super Off Road and X-Men, Spider-Man and the X-Men. We did. We did Thomas the Tank Engine, actually, as well. We used to do these little games as well, you know what I mean, in between. That was fine, that was good fun. A game called Plock that came out, which was a sort of in-house original.
What would you say, like, about, I mean, apart from, you mentioned Ghouls and Ghosts, is there anything else, like a particular favourite, more something you're proud of that you've done, because it was like a more difficult project, say, or something like that? Like, with, like, say, limited resources or something, or is there anything you thought, well, actually, we got the best out of that there? To be fair, it might not be your actual favourite, but something you thought. Well, we definitely got the best out of that.
You mean on the old systems, or the?
Maybe with the old systems, or like, or.
I think probably. I don't know really. I mean, probably Spider-Man was. I'm trying to think of the most recent ones we did. Because we did. I was quite enjoyed that because it was so cheesy. I just loved all that sort of just cheese. And you have a bit of fun with it. You know what I mean? Because we had sort of like 70s guitars in there doing this sort of cheesy, wah-wah pedal sort of stuff, you know what I mean, and cheesy brass coming in and stuff. So that was fun, the most fun. So.